Are American drivers bad? UK versus USA driving experience. So I've driven in America very, very little and only on like the highways. So just like going straight for long periods of time. I've not done any intersections or anything like that. And, you know, after watching so many idiots in cars videos, I have to say I'm quite nervous at the prospect of driving in America, even though it's probably not that bad. You know, it's probably like, if anything, I might find it better or more fun because the lanes are bigger, there's more space and all that stuff. So I'm quite eager to see from someone who has lived and driven in both countries quite a lot, what she makes of it, like, you know, to hopefully kind of dispel my nerves.
Driver's ed, which is a real thing through our high school, and I'm not kidding when I'm telling you that I learned how to drive from my Spanish teacher.
Wow. No way. This looks like America.
Welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm an American who's lived in the UK for almost 10 years. And
this looks like America though.
Today I'm doing a video on the differences between driving in the UK and US. So I'm not gonna look at you because I am a safe driver.
Yeah, and she's on the left hand. This is America.
I'm currently driving in the middle of absolutely nowhere in the US. Genuinely, this road is not paved.
Wow.
And there's nothing else around.
Yeah, the road isn't paved. Like all the gravel and stuff is going to be like scratching up the car. No?
If you're familiar, we've just finished up at Joshua Tree National Park. So anyway, if you want more content on life in the UK versus the US, definitely hit subscribe because that is what I talk about on this channel. And for now, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first difference. Obviously, this is an obvious one. In the US, we drive on the right-hand side of the road.
Yeah.
And in the UK, we drive on the left-hand side of the road. This is, again, it's so obvious, but it is a big difference.
It's a massive difference. When I was driving, was it 2 years ago, like November when I was in America, accidentally went into the left-hand lane, almost went head on with a big white, I think it was a Dodge Ram. Man, that was a hairy moment. Like my brain just didn't, for that split second, I thought I was in the UK. When I saw that massive car heading towards me, I was like, ah!
Particularly for visitors who are coming to either country, I always tell visitors from the US to the UK that actually the UK is so well laid out with public transport to not really bother with driving because not only would they have to learn the other UK rules of the road, but just driving on the left versus driving on the right can be a pretty big switch. I learned how to drive in the US. I do have a UK driver's license and I do drive in the UK. And it was hard for me to learn to switch to the other side of the road. And when I'm in the US, I do have to make sure that I'm remembering to be on the right-hand side of the road. Okay, difference. Oh my God, there's a person. Oh my God, that's like a coyote dog.
There's a car coming.
Oh my gosh, there's a car coming. Okay, this is seriously like a UK road here though, because
yeah, this looks like a single lane road, so someone's gonna have to stop.
I'm not good at passing cars because I'm American, so I like to leave 100 miles in between us, so this is gonna be interesting.
It's fine, there's enough space.
There's enough room for 2 cars. Just pull up.
Yeah,
Just
pull up.
Yeah, go up, put your car up it a little bit.
Yeah, there's not enough
Like
space.
Not that high. Jeez, we'll
Like
never
that?
get down. Yeah, that's fine.
Do you think they have enough room?
Yeah, for sure, there's enough clearance.
I don't really know.
There is.
They're like, this person's not even from here.
Talk about how Americans don't say thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't wave. What was that about? Like she went up on the side to give her, you know, to give her space, and she didn't wave.
Number 2. Americans in general, since we've been driving here in the US this time, you know what, my husband wants me to mention this. I'm gonna mention this and I'm gonna say it's California specific. So my experience of Florida is I feel like more people do say thank you when you let them in, or...
I think that's basic. You should. If somebody lets you in, they've done you a favor. Thank them. Or do you think I'm being a bit over the top here?
You know, they're just being polite on the road. I'm not saying Florida drivers are good, but like I was taught to say thank you with like a little wave. People in California don't ascribe to that belief. They don't do that. Whereas in the UK, I think pretty much everybody like says thank you. But another difference, and I think I'm on difference 2 now, saying thank you. Or is this difference 3? I think difference 2. In Florida, I was never, ever, ever taught to turn on your hazard lights to say thank you.
Yeah.
But in the UK...
Yeah, for the person behind, because they can't see. So yeah, we'll just quickly flash them twice.
They definitely use their lights to say thank you. So here, my husband keeps doing it. Is this a road? Okay, hang on.
Is this a train track? Oh,
no, it's a paved road, everyone.
Yeah, what is that?
We found
it. There's a road. Okay, thank goodness. Could you imagine if a massive train just came in from the right-hand side and that was the end of the video?
Where was I? Hazard lights. So I feel like in the US, we don't actually use our hazard lights to say thank you like they do in the UK. My husband has
You're not meant to.
Okay, my husband has just informed me, as you can...
a hazard warning.
Okay.
I mean, we do. You're not meant to. It's not like part of the rules of the road, but we definitely do.
Yeah, but everyone in the... You always turn them on when you say thank you.
In America, turn them on. I am warning you that I am a hazard because I am on my phone texting.
So do they teach you in the UK to turn your lights on to say thank you, though?
People just do it.
Yeah.
It's just become like a custom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, or you flash or you turn your hazard lights on or whatever, or put your hand up.
Okay. So technically you're not supposed to use your... People in the UK are very polite. Okay. Difference number 3. Automatic versus manual driving. So manual, otherwise known to most Americans as stick shift.
Yeah, I've only ever driven stick. I've never driven automatic. My next car, because I've not had a car for a while now, will be an automatic. I don't know which one it will be, but definitely automatic. Just because, you know, I'm driving longer distances now, like to go see family and stuff, and having to like do the clutch all the time, go into first, go back into fifth, it is getting a bit annoying, or it was getting annoying. So I think auto will be the next one. But driving stick or manual is more fun. I feel like you've got more control over the car, like when you're going up in the gears, it just feels more cool.
Is another big difference, because in the US, we mostly, like 95% of us, learn to drive an automatic and will never drive a stick shift / manual transmission. I just made up the 95%, but the overwhelming majority. It is considered a special skill here to drive a stick shift / manual. In the UK, they mostly drive as standard a manual transmission. You can get automatic cars in the UK, and people do drive them, and I find that increasingly more and more people do drive them in the UK, but the default in the UK is going to be a manual transmission. So if you're an American renting a car in the UK, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting an automatic, because I know for myself, I never learned how to drive a stick shift.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting a manual car as someone who can't drive a manual. You would be stuck unless you are an extremely quick learner, because I remember when I learned how to drive, getting the clutch, finding the biting point in the clutch took me at least 3 lessons before I can consistently find the biting point and I wouldn't stall the car.
And when I learned to drive in the UK, I have an automatic only license. That was a personal decision for me because I felt like it would be a pretty big undertaking at the time. I was doing my master's degree and I had to get my British license, and so I decided to stick to automatic only. Okay, so my camera got cut off. We pulled over in the middle of the desert. All is good. I was talking about stick shift versus automatic transmissions. UK, stick shift. US, automatic, and that is the story about that. Okay, the next difference has to do with straight roads. Let's start with the direction of roads. To find a straight road like this in the UK, is it I mean, I've never been on one. I'm sure there's some.
The only ones that really exist are the motorways, the long motorway stretches. other than that, it's quite rare, especially in London. They're all going to be like weird ovals or like wiggly lines.
Long straight road somewhere, but I haven't found it. UK roads are curvy. And also, by the way, the UK is a lot smaller than the US, so just naturally you're gonna have more turns and more curvy parts. The US is massive. This is a straight road that we are going to be on for a long time. I have not had to go around a bend. I have not had to turn a corner. I'm literally just pressing the pedal and driving straight. Wow. This is not necessarily the case with all of the US. Of course, you're gonna have places, particularly where we were in California before, doing like the Pacific Coast Highway, that has a lot more curves than you might be used to, but these long straight roads are kind of really associated with America, particularly American road trips, and you just wouldn't find them in the UK. Okay, the next difference.
I think this is why playing games on road trips in America is such a thing, because as a driver, if you're only having to go straight, it's easier to like, have chats and stuff. But if you're like going on a roundabout, a 5-lane roundabout, and there's a car coming from your right at 50 miles an hour, trying to play tic-tac-toe while trying to navigate the roundabout would be really hard.
Let's talk about the size of the roads. So again, I'm going to be generalizing here because you can find some narrow roads in the US. We have found them during our trip in California, particularly when we were driving in Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. There were times when I was like, this is an English-sized road with American-sized cars, which is a lot more difficult than just using British-sized cars on British-sized roads. But in general, the size of an American road, the size of American parking spaces are going to be a lot larger, a lot wider than in the UK. That brings me to my next difference.
Which I love personally. I wish we had that here. Bigger lanes, bigger car park spaces. It would just make everything so much easier. There'd probably be less accidents as well.
Which is about the size of the cars.
They're so big.
American cars are
huge.
Giant. Now, I don't view all American cars as giant because they're just normal cars to me. But UK cars are much, much smaller than US cars, and things like Hummers, giant pickup trucks, you just don't find those in the UK. They're not even gonna fit on the road. They're not gonna fit in someone's driveway. And that's not the culture in the UK. Bigger is not better in the UK.
Man, good luck trying to drive a Dodge Ram or an F-150 down a UK country lane. You wouldn't fit. You would lose your wing mirror every day. Like, someone would clip it. Like, it's just too wide. Too wide.
In the US, bigger is better. Giant monster trucks are, people love those. And in general, just like a normal sized car in America, it's gonna be much bigger than a UK sized car. Now, the next difference to talk about has to do with the people driving those cars. So let's talk about driving tests in the UK versus the US.
God.
And I'm going to out myself here. I am not necessarily the world's most confident driver in the UK. I have taken a UK test and I have passed. However, my initial driving instruction and driving test in the US, in Florida, was essentially driving down like a back road and having to park going straight in.
Is that
it? We don't do
it?
parallel parking on Florida driving tests. Maybe they do them nowadays. We didn't back then. And they definitely weren't going to take you above like 25 miles an hour.
No way. Mate, it took me 40 hours worth of driving lessons to pass my driving test. 40 hours and 2 tests. I failed my first driving test. Although my first driving test was a crash course that I took after like 10 or 20 hours. Yeah, man, like you got to do a theory test as well before you can take the practical test. You got to take an exam. Yeah, and the theory test, you have to get like 50 out of 60 marks. It's not easy to get a driving license, and especially if you do it manual. So, you got to do parallel parking in a manual car. You've got to do everything it's not easy to get a driver's license here in the UK.
Now you can ask yourself, but how do they know that you are actually licensed to drive? Well, they don't, I guess. So we're all left on the roads, mostly to our own devices. The UK driving test is about an hour long. It's very intricate. You have to do all sorts of different maneuvers. Parallel parking is one of those things that you might be asked. Parallel parking is very popular in the UK. In general, there are theory tests in both countries, so I did have to do that in the US and in the UK. But in general, the driving portion of a UK driving test is so much longer and more intricate than we have in a lot of states in the US. Again, this can differ state to state, so each state will have their own driving test. I can only speak to Florida, but we definitely did not make it hard to pass.
Yeah. I would love to see some statistics whether like there's more accidents in America as a result of having an easier driving test. I might check that out.
Another difference with driving lessons and learning to drive has to do with who teaches you to drive. So in the UK, you traditionally would you do driving lessons, like proper actual, you sign up with a driving school and you do driving lessons with a driving instructor. In the US, we have passed one driving instructor car during our trip here. This was not my experience. None of my friends did driving lessons through anything other than driver's ed.
So your dad basically teaches you how to drive, or your mum, and that's enough. Save a lot of money. I think I spent in total about £1,200, £1,300 learning to drive. It was about £22 an hour at the time, I think. Now it's like 30 or more per hour.
Which is a real thing through our high school, and I'm not kidding when I'm telling you that I learned how to drive from my Spanish teacher. So if that tells you anything about the quality of American driving, we typically learn from our parents.
Okay.
So like my dad and mom would take me out to drive. We wouldn't really have official lessons.
I see.
So take that for what you will about the difference between American and British drivers. I was taught in my school parking lot by my Spanish teacher, and here someone would take multiple hours of actual instructed lessons with a qualified driving instructor. Okay, another difference, and I hope you're enjoying the view behind me because I definitely am, is going to be roundabouts versus intersections. So in the UK, roundabouts are the most popular way to cross over what they call, it's called a junction. That a roundabout helps you get through. And so that means a lot of times people don't even really have to stop. If it's clear coming from your right-hand side, you can just keep going through the roundabout.
I just think it's so much safer. If it's clear, you move. If there's a car coming to your right, you wait. Because where there's traffic lights at an intersection, there's always going to be an idiot who's going to try and beat the red light. And if there's a car that's already coming across, that's a T-bone. Logically, it just seems a lot safer. What do you guys think?
In the US, roundabouts are not very common. We've experienced a couple different, I think we found one official roundabout. The others apparently are something called a traffic circle because they have stop signs, so it isn't like a true roundabout. Americans don't understand how to use roundabouts. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Really?
We mostly just get confused, try and drive straight through them. What are these signs up here? Not very popular. So we would have just an intersection with traffic lights, and they do have traffic lights in the UK, but we have them at a 4-way intersection, or however many ways you're going intersection. In the US, roundabouts are not common. Another difference that I've noticed when driving in America versus driving in the UK has to do with stop lights.
Yeah, you guys could turn right on red in some places. Oh my God, I was in driving, where were we? I can't remember where. I think it might have been California. And the car was it was a red light, and the car behind, so what the hell's going on? And then I saw, even though it was a red light, there was a green arrow pointing that way. And I was like, oh, I see.
Traffic lights. I've only seen traffic lights in the UK that are kind of stood up on a pole. Here in the US, we mostly have them hanging over the road.
Yeah, they dangle.
So I think we might have some hanging over the road in the UK, but it's very common to have them kind of just standing up. Another difference, which I had and then I just forgot.
Stop signs.
Yeah. Another difference has to do with stop signs. So stop signs are everywhere in the US. You're always stopping. Sometimes you'll have a four-way stop, so everybody has to stop. And the way to know who goes next is usually who got there, like, the order in which you get to the stop sign is the order in which you get to go. So if you got to the stop sign second and someone else got to their stop sign coming from the other way first, you stop, they stop, then they go, then you go. You have to look to see who else has stop signs. They can just be kind of like randomly in places. We were driving like 60 miles an hour and then all of a sudden there was a stop sign. Stop signs aren't as common in the UK. A lot of times you don't need them because of a roundabout, but also it's just like a yield. So the kind of quintessential American looking stop signs, again, are really a big part of driving here that you have to get used to if you're used to UK driving.
Right.
You're also supposed to treat an intersection with traffic lights like it has stop signs if the traffic lights are out. So fun fact, during the hurricanes, when they come to Florida, or if there's some other natural disaster, if you're driving and the lights are not working, you treat it like it is a four-way stop, and you just go based on who has gone to the traffic to the stop sign first.
I see.
If there's a debate over like you're not entirely sure, a lot of times people will just wave you on. So you'll just wave someone else on, but you have to like look and kind of negotiate with the other drivers on the
Wow, interesting. Okay, that will take me a while to get used to, but seems kind of straightforward.
road as to who should get to go. Okay, so I'm going to go enjoy this beautiful drive.
Really interesting one. I feel like a broken record with the roundabouts thing. It really isn't complicated. It's so simple. You know, if there's no one coming to the right, you have the right to go. Everyone else will stop. If there's someone coming to the right, you let them pass and then you go. Simple as. I just think it's safer. But maybe I need to check some statistics. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.